What is up, everybody? Welcome back to PackPullers. It's Cody. It's been a minute, but we're back. We're getting into the swing of things again. We've had a little bit of hiatus in some content, but that's okay because we got some cool things coming down the pipe. We've got something really special coming up later this month. But today we have something neat and special. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite card games, but oddly enough, not one that we have featured very much on the channel, and that is Flesh and Blood. So Flesh and Blood is the card game that I have played the most at a competitive level. And for those of you who know, just recently in the last couple months, I've really got back into it. Going out to my Armory events. We just had a ProQuest season a couple weeks ago. We've got a pre-release coming up for the new Part the Mistveil set. So there's a lot going on with Flesh and Blood right now. And even though we've done one video where we opened up a box, but we've never done like a breakdown of the Blitz decks or anything like that, or talking about why I like the game or how the game works, I thought, what better way and what a better time to kind of introduce one of my favorite games and the one that I play the most to the channel than with a brand new product from Legend Sortie Studios, the Armory decks. Armory. These are brand new classic constructed decks, so the 60 card format, 60 card 40 health adult hero format. And they are meant to be competitive at a Armory level. So that's your like local events, like your Friday Night Magic kind of thing. And that is what they are designed around. And so far we have one, and that is Kayo Armed and Dangerous. So we are going to open this bad boy up. My understanding is that these decks have cards specific to them, as well as just some, some staples for Brute. Probably some pretty good heavy hitters cards, if I had to guess. So we're gonna go through this. We're actually gonna do kind of like a 2-for-1 episode. We're gonna review two things. We're gonna look at this Armory deck, and this might just be what I play if I want to play Brute on a Friday night, because I don't have a whole lot of Brute cards. And we're also going to look at these Katana sleeves. A lot of my friends have been recommending Katana, and they really like the these or the Eclipse sleeves over Dragon Shield. So I thought, you know what? I'm ruining the box. Let's buy a pack, and let's try them out and see what we think. So we're going to open up this deck, we're going to sleeve it up. We'll go through the cards as we do that, and then we're going to sleeve it up and see what we think about the deck and the sleeves. So let's go ahead and get our sleeves out here. We got this nice little red. I thought the red looked good. It was a good idea for Kayo, being an angry Brute and all that. But let's get right into it. We got a sweet little pull tab on the bottom. Not a whole lot in here. It talks about Brute. Brute's pack some of the biggest attacks in the game, and with Kayo's ability to create might tokens, he's swinging KO punches. Ha! KO. KO. Funny. Combine the agility of a wild beast and brute strength of an apex predator to unleash savage beatdowns. So there are no jokes. Brute attacks are some of... They're pretty typically above rate. And usually without a whole lot of downside. Downside usually comes in the form of discarding cards. But if you discard one with 6 or greater power, you usually get an effect. Ooh. Interesting. Alright, we'll get there. So if you discard a card that costs 6 or more, you get an effect. So it's a little random, and variants can be good. Like, Brute is definitely like the high rolly class. If you've played Flesh and Blood, I'm sure you've been rolled by somebody hitting a 6 off Scab Skins, and you're super mad about it, only to go and play Brute and roll a 1 on Scab Skins every time. So I know the feeling all too well. But where Kayo has been, in my opinion, super powerful is in his consistency. So let's look at him and figure out why that is. So this is Kayo, Armed and Dangerous. He is an adult hero with 40 health. First of all, you only have one weapon zone. So for those familiar with Flesh and Blood, you can usually either equip a 2-handed weapon or 2 one-handed weapons. Kayo actually only has 1 arm. So he can only equip one-handed weapon. Second ability, attack action cards you own get +1 while they are in any zone other than the combat chain. So this is what makes Kayo so consistent. Now you can run blue 5s and yellow 5s, and anytime that you go to discard a card where you'd want to hit a 6, that's always a 6. So now you can have a much higher resource curve and access to a lot of really good cards that you couldn't play in like a Rhinar or something like that, or a Levia, because you're afraid to miss. So it's super strong ability. And on top of that, the first time you discard a card, got a little bit of a glare. There we go. The first time you discard a card with 6 or more power during each of your action phases, create a might token. So that is our hero. The weapon of choice is the Mandible Claw. Once per turn action, 2 resources, attack with it. If you've discarded a card with 6 or greater power this turn, it gains go again. Attacks for 3. A little QR code, maybe a quick play guide. Enter the deathmatch arena. I don't know what that is. We've got some tokens. We've got a might token, several might tokens. We've got agilities. So the might tokens will give our attacks +1. Agilities will give our attacks go again. And starting right into it. So why are some of these cards backwards? What are we doing here? Are these supposed to be like sideboard? I don't know. Some of those cards in the back are backwards. Starting us right off is a huge card in Brute, Savage Beatdown. So this is the 3-cost, red, 1 pitch, attacked for 6. Play this only if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power this turn. As an additional cost to play this, discard a random card. If the discarded card has 6 or more power, this gets +6. So this could very easily, again, because you're not missing in this deck. We'll take a note of if there are any misses at all, and we'll see. But this is going to be a 12 for 3. And, you know, you have to factor in the fact that you're discarding cards to play it. You have to have already discarded a card. So out of a 4-card hand, I don't even know if you can play it out of a 4-card hand, because you have to have a blue to play it right, unless you have, you know, Tunic or something. You need to have discarded a card. So you could do it out of a 4-card hand. I just don't know how you would have discarded a card, because you still have to have 1 left. You have to have 1 to pitch for this, the card itself to play, and a card left to discard. So you need at least 3 cards when you've already discarded a card. So it might have to be a 5-card hand at all times. Oh, and you have 3 copies of Savage Beatdown. At the end of this, interesting. At the end of this, maybe we'll look at the value of the estimated value of this deck. So we have 3 copies of Savage Beatdown. Next, we have Strength Rules All. This is 6 power. It only costs 2. It's also a red. It pitches for 1. When this hits a hero, turn a card in their arsenal face up. Then banish an attack action card in their arsenal with power less than the damage dealt this way. Very nice. It's really nice to see them print. Okay, so maybe these are just... So we got 2 regulars and then a rainbow foil. It's really nice to see them print Arsenal Disruption that's not $100 in Command & Conquer. So that's great. Next up, Brute Classic Staple. Bare Fangs. 2 cost, red, 1 pitch. Attacks for 6. When this attacks, draw a card and then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, it gets +2. So you're looking to hit, and then you're going to swing for 8. Pulping, one of my favorites. Classic. 2 cost, red, 1 pitch. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a random card. If a card with 6 or more is discarded this way, this gains Dominate. Dominate means that this can't be defended by more than 1 card from hand. Plus, if this is defended by fewer than 2 non-equipment cards, it gains Go again. Huge card. You get the Dominate. They can't block it with more than 1 card because of the Dominate unless they have like a D-React in the arsenal, and then you gain Go again. Speaking of Go again, Wild Ride. 2 cost red card, so 1 pitch. When this attacks, draw a card, then discard a card, a random card. If a card with 6 or more power is discarded this way, this gains Go again. I don't know if you guys are noticing a theme here. We also have 3 copies of that. Very nice. Here's some heavy hitters. Clash Agility. 2 cost, red card, 1 pitch. When this defends, clash with the attacking hero. Clash means that you reveal the top card of your deck, your library, and whoever has the greatest power out of what is shown is the winner. So the winner in this case would create an agility token. These are the agility tokens that we got earlier, which says at the start of your turn, destroy this. Your next attack gains go again, which is very good. 3 copies of Clash Agility. Next up, we have Wreck Havoc. 2 cost, red, 1 pitch. Defense reactions cannot be played to this chain link. When this hits a hero, you may turn a card in their arsenal face up, banish a defense reaction in their arsenal. Excuse me. Really hate to see that card if you're sitting on a defense reaction in arsenal. Next up, Humble. 2 cost, red, 1 pitch, 6 power. When this hits a hero, they lose all card abilities until the end of their next turn. And then you just kill like a Levia because she can't turn off Blood Debt, and then she dies to her own Blood Debt. 3 copies of that as well. Next up, Rally the Rear Guard. 2 cost, 6 power, red, 1 pitch. Once per turn instant, discard a card. This gains +3. Only activate this ability while defending. One of the things, and we'll see if we have it in this deck, but one of the things that I've experienced in Brute sometimes is you might get a hand that has no blocks in it. Okay, here's a good example right here. So, Bare Fangs. The traditional anatomy of a Flesh and Blood card is our corners, right? So in the top right corner, we have the cost. In the top left corner, we have the resource that it generates. Bottom left corner, we have the power, the damage that it can deal. In bottom right corner, you would typically have the amount that it blocks for. So we'll look at Clash Agility here, and this will block for 3. Brute specifically has a lot of pearls, so no blocks, so cards that cannot be used to block. So what you could do is if you're facing a really heavy turn and you have a Rally the Rear Guard in it, you can use that to block. You can discard a card that has no block on it, and then it's still a 2-card block for 5, and that might just help you stay alive whenever you have cards that don't block at all. So now we're into yellows. Now yellows are good because they generate more resource, but well, hang on, that's only 5. That's going to be a miss. Well, no, because we have Kayo's ability. So anytime outside the combat chain, so when this is attacking or defending, this gets +1, so it's going to be a 6. So the yellow Bare Fangs, looks like we have 3, are still a hit. Next up, we're getting into the blues. We love seeing blues in Brute because we have very expensive cards. Assault and Battery. This is a 3-cost blue pitch, so it generates 3 resource. It has Beat Chest, so as an additional cost to play this, you may, which means you don't have to, you may discard a card with 6 or more power. When this attacks, if you've Beat Chest, make an agility token. It attacks for 5. Again, if we hit it on a random discard, it counts as a 6. Next up, Pound Town. 3-cost blue pitch, generates 3 resource. It also has Beat Chest. When this attacks, if you've beaten Chest, create a Might token. So now you see why those tokens are so important. And so that means you can create 2, because Kayo's ability will create 1, and then Pound Town will create 1. Another Brute classic, Wrecker Romp. It is a 2-cost blue pitch, generates 3 resource, attacks for 6, even in blue. As an additional cost to play this card, discard a random card. 3 copies. Now, here is a new card that is only in this Arsenal deck, or this Armory deck. This is Run Rugshod? It is a 1-cost blue pitch, so it generates 3 resource. Play this only if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power this turn. It is a 1-cost 5-attack card in blue. Very, very strong. And again, so we have 2 copies there. Again, outside the combat chain, it counts as a 6 because of Kayo's ability. Next up, Smash Instinct. 3-cost blue pitch, so it generates 3 resource. When this attacks, Intimidate. So Intimidate is a keyword that we see in Brute that says target hero banishes a card, banishes face down a random card from their hand. At the beginning of their end phase, they return it to their hand. So it's just a way to get blocking cards out of their hand, fewer resources for them to be able to block you out. Next up, a card that I really like in Brute, but I don't see it very often. Reincarnate. This is a 3-cost blue pitch, so it generates 3 resource. It attacks for 5, not stellar, but when it's discarded at random, you get to put it on the bottom of your deck, the bottom of its owner's deck. So that helps in fatigue matchups, and then just in general, it gives you some, I guess you wouldn't really call it recursion because it doesn't go to the graveyard, but it just gives you some staying power, right? Discarding cards feels bad, but if they just get put on the bottom of your deck, it's not bad at all. Next up, we have Riled Up. It is a 3-cost blue pitch, generates 3 resource, attacks for 5, but if you've discarded a card with 6 or more power this turn, this gets +1. Now, I'm not a Brute expert. I think in general, we're just not attacking with the blues. Blues are a resource generator, or we might even use them for other reasons. We'll see that right now. Next up, Agile Windup. It is a 3-cost blue pitch, so it generates 3 resource. It attacks for 5, but it has an instant ability. So instants we can do at any time, specifically on our opponent's turn. But if we do it on our turn, it does not cost our action point. So instant, discard this card, create an agility token. So on our opponent's turn, we can discard it, we can make an agility, give our attack on our next turn, go again. Very, very strong. In the same vein, we have Mighty Windup. 3-cost, blue pitch, generates 3 resource. Instant, destroy or discard this, create a Might token. So now we have instant ways to generate both Might and agility tokens. This attacks for 5. Oh, I think this is also a card that's only in this deck, because I haven't seen them before. This is Battlefront Bastion. 3-cost, 3 resource, blue pitch. When this defends alone, prevent the next 1 damage that would be dealt to you this turn. So by itself, it can block for 3. Less block, but it blocks for 2, and then it prevents 1 damage, which is kind of a niche thing to say, a niche line of speaking, but that does become important when it comes to on hits and things like that. So blue attacks for 5. All right, now we have a couple things here. We have more rainbow foils and then some equipment. I don't know why they're placed backwards like that. I don't know if they're different or what. All right, next up, Knucklehead. This is going to be our head slot equipment. This is a Kayo specialization. So you can only use this if you're playing Kayo. Blocks for 2. It has temper, so whenever the combat chain closes, if this defended, you put a -1 counter on it. So it blocks for 2 the first time. Next time it'll only block for 1. But if you do that, when it has 0 counters on it, you have to destroy it. So you can block for it twice, effectively have, save yourself 3 life, but then you have to destroy it. Or you can use its action. Destroy this, roll a 6-sided die. Until the end of your turn, your base memory is the number rolled. Again, we talked about high rolly cards in Brute, and this is it. So if you roll a 6 on this, and you get to Arsenal, and now you have a 7-card hand getting ready for the next turn in Brute, that is absolutely insane. But if you roll a 1, and then you only get to draw 1 card for your next turn, that's super sad. Super sad. So run Gambler's Gloves. Always run Gambler's Gloves. Our next piece of equipment is the foot slot, the Beaten Trackers. When you discard a random card with 6 or more power, you may destroy this. If you do, gain 1 action point. So I actually like cards like this. So this could be, one, it is a cheap alternative to Scabskin Leathers, which is what you would use to gain multiple action points to have really wide turns. But I like the consistency of pieces like this. So it only blocks for 1, but it has Battle Worn, so it's not destroyed after you block, which is good. And you have a consistent gain 1, right? So you're never going to be in the position like with Scabskin Leathers, where you roll a 1 on Scabskin and then you immediately have to end your turn and you can't do anything. But you're also never going to be in the position where you roll a 6 on Scabskin and now you have 3 action points to work with, and you're going to have a really, really good turn. But I like consistency, and I also like cheap alternatives. So we have our head and foot slot. Now let's see what these backwards facing cards are. First of all, beautiful foil here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Beautiful foil on the Savage Sash Mythic, which is interesting. Action, destroy this. Attack action cards with 6 or more power cost you 1 less resource to play this turn. Go again. So you get your action point back. It has temper, so again, you can block with it twice. It'll block for 2 the first time, then it'll block for 1 the next time, and then it's done. It's destroyed immediately. So that is our chest slot. Last but not least, our arms. We have the Hide Tamer. When you discard a random card, when you discard a random card with 6 or more power, you may destroy this. If you do, create 2 might tokens. Very, very pretty card. So that can actually really set you up for your next turn, because you're going to create 1 might token from, before I get too distracted here, last card is a foil Run Rugshod. Where'd my Run Rugshods go? So that could be a huge swing, right? So you're going to create 1 might token off of your hero ability from Kayo, and then you're going to create 2 off the Hide Tamer, so you're making, all of a sudden you're making 3 might tokens, so your first attack next turn is going to have +3. That's pretty good. You get that on something like a Pulping, and all of a sudden you're coming in for, you know, base 9 Dominate, potential for Go Again. That can be pretty sweet. All right, I'm going to leave you guys with some lovely music, some tunes, and I'm going to get sleeving, and then we're going to talk about the sleeves. So enjoy. All right, we're back. And while I sit here and get a feel for these katana sleeves and shuffle up, we're going to talk about my final thoughts for this deck. So what do I think of it? I'll start off by saying I think that this is a great product that does exactly what it intends to do. And what I mean by that is I think if you are just getting into Flesh and Blood and you want to get into a local play group and play at Armory events, and you don't want to have a heavy commitment to a character and a deck and spend, you know, $600, $700, $800 on, you know, upwards of $1,000 on a classic constructed deck, you can go to your local store. Shout out to Brickhouse Collectibles in Farragut, Tennessee. Go get your Armory decks there. You can go to your local game store and pick one of these up for $35 and have a good time. Now, is this something for seasoned veterans? I don't think so. I don't think that there's anything in this deck that as a seasoned player with a good collection, a sizable collection, you would buy this deck to get your hands on, right? Even the cards that specifically come in this, and I could be wrong. I'm not an expert at the game, let alone Brute and Kayo. But I think they're good, but I don't think they're good enough that you would go out and buy this deck just to get them, right? Which is kind of like what we saw with the Dory versus Rhinar decks from forever ago. There were cards in there that you wanted, that you'd buy the whole decks for just to get those cards. But I think your equipment suite, so the Knucklehead, I think is great, the headpiece, but there are better headpieces, right? I think Balance of Justice or Crown of Providence, probably Balance, or Scallion Fleshbag. Scallion Fleshbag is just so good into a lot of matchups. I think you can always have a better headpiece slot, but this is very good. Beaten Trackers, again, this is great. This gives you, you know, an extra action point, but it's not scabskin leathers, right? So, you know, Savage Sash makes your cards cost less, but it's not Tunic, you know. High Tamers gives you 2 might tokens, right? But it's not, you know, personally, I would run Gambler's Gloves, depending on what your equipment suite looks like. Or the, oh gosh, 2-block Temper, that gives you might tokens when you block with something with 3 or greater. Anyway, what I'm saying is it's good. It's very good. It's solid. It's consistent, but you know, you can run better things. You can run better things. As far as like the deck overall, I think it's good. I think it has some really good cards in here. You know, you have 6 Mythics, right, in the main deck. Savage Beatdowns, your 3 Savage Beatdowns, and your 3 Strength Rules All. Personally, I would have liked to have seen, and I know they have to be careful about what they put in a pre-constructed, pick up off the shelf and buy deck. I get that. But I think playing Brute without Beast Within, I would have really liked to see Beast Within over Strength Rules All. And Blood Rush Bellow. I think Blood Rush Bellow is an insane card. And then, you know, that's probably why it's not in there. It's not super expensive, but I get why it's not in here. Another card I'm disappointed to not see is Cast Bones. I really, really, really like Cast Bones in KO specifically. I think it's so good. So good. But I also understand that cards like Blood Rush Bellow and Cast Bones have now introduced, if you put, you know, 3 copies of each, have now introduced 6 misses into your deck. And so your consistency goes way down. Because right now, this is 100% hit, right? There is not a single miss on your discard a 6 or greater, right? Everything is 5 and up, which with KO's ability equals 6, right? 5 equals 6 for the purposes of KO's ability outside the combat chain. So we do not have a miss in here. And so if you put in Blood Rush Bellows and you put in Cast Bones, that's not the case anymore, right? So, final thoughts. I like the deck. I think it's good. I think I'm going to play it at our next Armory event. Our next Friday that we do CC, I think I'm going to take this deck with no alterations and just see how it does. Not that I have a whole lot of alterations I can make to it, because I'm not a big Brute player, so I don't have a lot of the really good Brute cards. I don't have Scabskins. I don't have Scallion Fleshbag. You know, a lot of those stuff I don't have. So I think I'm going to take this and play it and see how it does. But I think it's a great product. I think if you want to get into playing at your local Armory events, go pick up this deck. Again, drive to Brickhouse Collectibles in Farragut, Tennessee, and pick up this deck. Let's show off Kayo. There we go. As far as the sleeves go, side note, part 2 of this video, I actually really like these sleeves. These katana sleeves are very, very smooth. Sometimes you get these matte sleeves and they're like a little sticky. They feel weird in the hand, but these katana sleeves are very, very smooth. I have a hard time getting away from Dragon Shield because their art prints are just so cool on their cards, and I love it. But that's all we have for today. So welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple months, but that's okay. We're getting back into it. So just let me know in the comments down below what you think. Do you want to see more Flesh and Blood content? Do you want to see Blitz decks of reviews? Do you want to see, my opinions on heroes? Do you want to hear what I like to play? Because again, we haven't done a whole lot of Flesh and Blood content, but that's actually going to change soon. We've got some really cool stuff in the pipeline. Some help from some friends coming down to have what one might call an ultimate pit fight. So be on the lookout for that. But just let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you like this Armory deck? Do you like Brute? Did I say anything incredibly stupid about these cards? Let me know. But it's good to be back. It's good to talk to you guys. Have a great night.